Hello my fellow artisans, welcome back to the Artisan Electrics YouTube channel, and today is the day that I prepare for my NICEIC assessment. It's come around once again and I'm preparing a little bit last minute this year because I've just been so busy. And also it kind of came out of the blue a little bit because with the whole COVID situation it got sort of delayed and delayed. It's nearly 2 years since I had my last NICEIC assessment. It was kind of due, but then COVID hit and everything kind of went to pieces. So I've sort of been wondering when it was going to come, and suddenly, boom, the email came through from NIC, it's time for your assessment. But this year is a bit different for me. So you might have seen my previous video that I did before my last assessment, as I said, nearly 2 years ago, where I just talked to you through in detail all the process that I do to prepare for the visit. And then I talked about how the visit went as well. I'll leave a link up here somewhere where you can watch that video. It's like a 25-minute video where I go really into depth about it and how it went last time. So definitely watch that if you've got your assessment coming up. But this one, I want to kind of do a brief chat to you about the differences between my last visit and this one, because of things that have happened in the world and also things that have changed with my business and what I'm doing this time to kind of prepare for the visit. I hope this video is of value and benefit to you. If it is, don't forget to hit a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, because we do post regular videos all about the life of an electrician, tips, tricks, business ideas, all that kind of stuff. So make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on future videos. Let's get into it. I'm preparing now for the visit, and it's all the usual stuff really. Like, there's a lot of documentation that you need, which I'll run through briefly, but one of the big differences this year is obviously COVID. So the rules are a little bit tighter on what the NICEIC inspector will and will not do when he comes to do the visit. Recently, they were actually doing virtual visits, I believe, but now they're doing physical visits, so mine will be a physical visit. But they send you quite a long list of kind of do's and don'ts with regards to COVID, and also do's and don'ts with regard to what kind of sites that they don't really want to visit versus what sites they do. So they say that they prefer commercial sites, for example, because it's a lot easier to kind of maintain social distancing and there's not likely to be people around so much and things like that. With our work, we don't do a huge amount of commercial jobs, so they did say that they're happy to do domestic if necessary as well, but they prefer commercial. So I've got a few jobs lined up for them, which I will talk to you about in a minute. But then the other thing is that my business has changed a lot in the last year. We've gone from basically just being me, kind of a one-man band with a couple of subbies, to now we've got employees, office staff. We've got a lot more work going on. So the job list that's happened in the last year is massive compared to the previous year. We've been doing hundreds of EICRs. We've been doing loads of EV charging points. So it's a bit of a different ball game this year. And in the past, although I've always been an approved contractor, I've always got away with having just a half-day visit because we were mainly just doing domestic work, and my previous inspector said he didn't really need to do a full day's visit. But this time, my previous inspector, who was a lovely guy, has retired. He kept threatening to retire every year and he has finally done it, so I'm happy for him. But I'm also a bit nervous because I've got a new guy who I don't know, so I don't know what he's going to be like because he's following the normal procedures now. I've got to have a full day visit because I'm an approved contractor and that's just the way it goes. So I had to pay an extra 320 quid, I think, for the extra half day. It is what it is, and as we grow, I guess that's just to be expected. That's the way it's going to roll now, really. The great thing was my new NICEIC inspector phoned me and he just had a chat. He just wanted to, give me a little heads up that he was coming instead of my previous guy, and he sounds really nice, really friendly. He said he'd seen a few of the YouTube videos as well, so that's always interesting. And he sounds like, really nice and chilled. So it's a funny one, this annual visit, because it's always a bit intimidating because you've got someone kind of scrutinizing your work and, going through things with a fine-tooth comb. So I'm always a bit nervous about it, even though I don't really need to be. But I always look forward to it as well because the NICEIC inspectors are there to help you kind of learn about new things that are in the industry that you might not know about as well, to talk to you about potential future growth opportunities for your business, and to talk to you about things in the regs that may be a little bit unclear and stuff like that. So it's a good opportunity to tap into their knowledge really, and you're paying the NICEIC a lot of money every year. This is the chance where you get that payback really, because you get a one-on-one time with a very experienced electrical engineer type person who you can just chat through things with. So it's good to have a few questions to ask them in advance about things that you're not sure about with the regs, because you can kind of clear things up from their point of view. Just use it as an opportunity to connect with somebody who's got a lot of electrical knowledge. So how do I actually do the prep? NICEIC, when they book your appointment, they do it usually like 6 weeks ahead or something, and they send you a checklist. They send you this document that I've got on my computer now that says preparation for the visit. This is what you need to do. I will run through that with you briefly, and I'll talk to you about some ways that you can kind of make life easier for yourself, shall we say. One thing that you need, which is really important, is a record of all the work that you've carried out throughout the last year. Now, in old times, what we would do is probably give them a big pile of certificates. All the printed certificates that you've done in the last year, you would hand those over, and then they could flick through all the work that you do. But of course, now most of us, we don't use paper certificates anymore. We use online certification software, like we use Vestibular. And actually that's a new thing for me, is that last year, or last visit, I was using the NICEIC online platform. I've gone away from that now and I've gone over to Vestibular, so slightly different the way it's laid out. But it's the same kind of principle. We got a list of all our work that we've done, all the certificates that we've issued, and I just need to be able to show that to him basically, and then he can kind of flick through, select a few at random, ask me some questions about the jobs, maybe question a few things that we've put on the certificates if things don't quite make sense or whatever, and just talk to me about kind of the way that we fill out the certificates. They usually check up on the Part P notification, so something you need to be careful of is make sure you don't forget to do your Part P building regulations certificates when you're doing a new circuit or you're working in special locations or anything like that, because they will check, this is an electrical installation certificate, you've added a new circuit, can you show me the building regulations certificate for that? The slightly more complicated thing is that you need to be able to give them access to some jobs. Now that's even more complicated now, because it's just complicated to get into sites and people's houses and all that kind of stuff at the moment. So what I usually do is I just take a selection of jobs that we've done over the last year, and I phone them or I email them in advance and I say, hey, I've got my annual inspection and I'd love to take him to show him the work that we did at your property. It's on this date. Would it be okay if we call round if he selects your job? And it won't take long. We'll try to minimize interference. He just wants to see the quality of our work basically and ask a few questions about the job that we've done. And usually customers are happy to oblige. So I've got a few jobs lined up. I've got some EV charging jobs, some commercial jobs and some domestic jobs. So hopefully he'll just pick through a few of those that are convenient enough for us to visit, and we'll go over there and show him what we've done. Suitable transport. In the past, I always used to get him to just jump in the van and I would drive him around the jobs, and that was all very nice. But now with COVID, again, you know, it's slightly more tricky. So some inspectors might not want to go in the same vehicle as you, so you might have to travel in separate vehicles. So something to consider. Suitable equipment. So you need to have all the various things like your PPE to hand, first aid kit, access equipment, your test equipment, GS38 test leads, all that kind of stuff. So this year, again, it's a little bit more tricky for me because Corey has the van with most of the stuff on it and I'm mostly working in the office now. So I'm kind of the QS really now and not actually doing a lot of the work myself. So I've got to make sure that everything's there ready in the Tesla, ready to go, so that I can have all the equipment that I need to show him. What reference documents do you need? You need to have your BS 7671, your latest, the 18th edition of the wiring regulations. You also need to have the electricity at work regulations, 1989. Now you might not want to fork out 60 quid to buy it, like the physical copy. You can just download it online. So that's a little thing. Link in the description of this video to download it for free. Then you've got the PDF, and there's loads of other documents that I'll show you. I'll just leave a link to all the kind of free documents that you can download so that you don't need to go out and buy them, because that'll save you a lot of money. And all they need to see is that you've got access to it, basically. They're not worried about having a physical printed copy to look at. Other things, regulations wise, if you're doing EV charging points, obviously you need to have a copy of the latest version of the electric vehicle charging regulations. If you're doing firearms, you need to have the relevant regulations for that. If you're doing emergency lighting, you need to have the relevant regulations for that. And in those cases, usually you have to buy a printed copy. You can't really get a free digital copy. It doesn't really exist. You'll also need approved document P, which is the part P of the building regulations. It's a free download from the NICEIC website, so that's super easy. Again, there's a link in the description of this video. Also, if you're doing PAT testing, or what they call in-service inspection and testing of electrical equipment, you will need to have the relevant regulations for that as well, which you probably need to have either a printed or digital copy. When it comes to test equipment, what do you need for the visit? Obviously, number one really is you need to have GS38 test leads that are safe for you to be able to do safe isolation, because they will ask you to demonstrate safe isolation procedure during the visit. That's kind of a mandatory part. Definitely make sure that your GS38 test leads are in good condition. If you've got a proving unit and a lockout kit, that'll probably give you extra brownie points as well, so it's worth doing. If you don't have those, I'll leave an Amazon link in the description where you can get yourself a set. On top of the basic isolation stuff, you will also need a multifunction tester to be able to demonstrate that you know how to do the full range of installation tests, from when you're doing a new installation or when you're doing an EICR. So for us, we use multifunction testers, which we can do continuity, insulation resistance, RCD tests, earth loop impedance tests. And on top of that, because we're doing electric vehicle charging installs, we need to have the electric vehicle charging tester as well to be able to show the full range of tests on the EV charging points. But also that it's in good condition and that it's been either calibrated recently, or better yet, and they kind of require this too, is that you just prove that you do regular checks on your tester. So what we do is we use this CalCard thing, which is a way of just checking the readings on the tester. NICEIC provide them, and you can check like 0.1 ohms, 1 ohm, 100 ohms, 1000 ohms, stuff like that. You can do the tests and you can write down the results. We do that every month, and then we do the same tests like the earth loop impedance, the RCD tests on a particular socket in the office every time, and we just check the readings so that if they start to go out a little bit, then we know that we need to get the tester calibrated, because you don't actually have to get your tester calibrated every year. As long as you can prove that it's not gone out of calibration, then, you know, if you're checking it regularly every month and keeping a record of that, then that will be fine. You don't actually have to have a valid calibration certificate as such. And again, for the accuracy of test equipment, there's a free download from the NICEIC website where you can do your checks. So super easy, and it's free to download. What about insurance? So another part of the visit, they will want to check up your insurance. So you need to prove that you've got the relevant insurances in place, some of which are required by NICEIC, like public liability insurance. And I've made a separate video all about insurance. I'll leave a link in the description for that, where you can find out what type of insurance do you need as an electrician, what other insurances can you get that can also be of benefit to your business. I've done a comprehensive video all about insurance, so I'll leave a link for that below. But basically, for the NICEIC visit, you need to have £2 million of public liability insurance as a minimum. And if you're in the PRS scheme, which is a private rental scheme doing EICRs, you will need to have professional indemnity insurance as well as a requirement as part of the visit. If you don't have those, that will get flagged up and you'll have to come back and prove that you've got that later on. An interesting note here about public liability insurance as well is if you don't have public liability insurance that's valid on the day, they won't go out and do a site visit with you. So your whole appointment will basically be cancelled, and then you'll end up getting charged all over again for a revisit. So, I mean, I don't think anyone would be stupid enough to join NIC and not have public liability insurance, but if it's run out and you didn't realise, for example, you need to get on it and make sure that it is valid. The fifth thing that they ask for is record of complaints. So if you've had any complaints about your business in the last year, you need to keep a record of that. And it's a very simple document. Ours is usually completely empty. So we just show that we have it, and it's just a file on the computer that we say, yeah, this is our record of complaints, and there haven't been any in the last year, but it's just something that you have to have in place. Health and safety. So health and safety is really important as part of the inspection visit, and you have to show them your health and safety policy, and you have to also show them that that is regularly reviewed. So for us, we have a health and safety policy document, which is reviewed and signed by myself every year, and we just have to show them that to show that it is valid. And again, you could get a template for this. It's not something you have to write out this huge, long, complicated document yourself. You can get free templates for a health and safety policy online, and then just fill out your personal company details to kind of tailor it to your company. List of electrical work, we've already mentioned that earlier, but you need to show not only the electrical work that you've done in the past year, but also any work that's in progress as well. So you just need to give them a list of what's going on so that they know exactly what you've done and what you're currently working on. So how does the actual assessment go on the day? What generally happens is they come to either your office address or your home if you work out of your house, and they will sit down with you, make them a cup of tea, it's very important, or coffee if they like that. That always gets the visit off to a good start, maybe a couple of biscuits as well. And then you basically chat through your business, how things have been going for the last year, and you present to them all the documentation and bits and pieces that I've just spoken to you about. So that's the first part of the visits, is sort of the in-office part of the assessment where they just check that all the paperwork is in place. And then the next part of the visit is on-site. So they will go with you to site. They will select from your list of work several sites that they want to visit. You will arrange access, you will go there, and you'll show them the work you've done. They'll check through some of the readings, and they might ask you to take some tests again and check to see if the readings match the readings that you've put on the certificate. And they'll ask you to show safe isolation procedure. They will ask you to demonstrate some basic tests that you would normally do on an installation, and they might ask you a few questions about what kind of readings you would expect to get. They might ask you a few regulations-based questions just to check that you are kind of on the ball and you know what you're talking about when it comes to the regs. But it's never usually anything too complicated, so you don't have to worry too much. And if you don't know the answer, they'll usually help you to get the answer. Then once the site assessment is done, they will either go back to the office with you, or they'll maybe just stay with you in the vehicle for after the last job and just discuss how the visit's gone, anything that's of concern to them, and then they'll tell you the outcome of the visit. And the outcome of the visit will either be, yeah, everything's fine, you're good, you know, you've passed for another year, or there might be one or two things that they've picked up on that they need to follow up on, in which case you either need to provide evidence, which could be just sending them some documentation or something like that, or if it's really bad, then it might involve a revisit where they have to come out again and revisit you. So those are the sort of three outcomes that are possible, really. In my experience, I've only ever had either all good, nothing to worry about, or one or two little bits of evidence that I've needed to send for things in the past, but I've never had to have a revisit. So far, so good. So all in all, what can I say about how to get the best out of your NICEIC assessment? Number one, be prepared. Try and get everything ready well in advance. Get your jobs lined up that you can take them to, inform the customers, have all the paperwork in place. If they can see right from the start that you're super organised and you've got everything there ready for them, it makes their life easier and they're more likely to support you and help you during the visit. If you seem a little bit disorganised and you've got loads of stuff missing, then it doesn't really give a good impression about your business. Number two, have some questions in mind for them so that you can get the most out of the visit and you can learn something. It's always good to go away from it and feel like you've learned something, you've grown in your knowledge of the electrical industry, your knowledge of good working practices, so something always good to think about. And then if there is anything that they leave with you that you need to follow up on after the visit, follow up on it promptly, get it sorted out, and then you're all good for another year and you don't need to worry. I hope this video has been of benefit to you. If it has, don't forget to hit a thumbs up, maybe share it out to someone else who could benefit from it, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for watching and have a great day.